Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about Knives Out. There's something that's a lot of fun about a good murder mystery. That's very audience-pleasing and fun, and just like a fun thing to see unravel. And that's really what Knives Out is. It might look like a more smarter, more intense, maybe more suspenseful kind of murder mystery. I didn't really feel it was at all, but I had a lot of fun with it, which is kind of interesting. This felt a lot lighter than I'm used to from Rian Johnson, maybe his lightest since The Brothers Bloom, which I didn't really like, but I only saw once, so maybe I need to rewatch that. It feels well constructed, like almost perfectly constructed, like tied up perfectly in a nice Hollywood major studio kind of constructed bow, but not in the way that we're used to. I guess a major studio film is now a tentpole, a big blockbuster or something. This really isn't that. But it feels like a big studio concern, I guess, of yesteryear. And clearly Rian Johnson likes film history, knowing that Brick and so forth if you go throughout his career. And this feels very much like a throwback to that, but, you know, updated to 2019 and all that, which he very much did on purpose. He's admitted to in interviews and so forth. And he's able to, you know, maybe update certain things like terms people use and the kind of caricatures. You know, you can't have a character you'd have in the 40s. Instead, you have, you know, a strong-willed mom, you know, real estate agent, or an influencer mom, or you have a spoiled brat kind of playboy guy, or you have a young student in college who's very much woke and all those things. Not in a way that feels like predictable, in a way that feels kind of perfect. Like it perfectly encapsulates what a murder mystery would be now, and that's a lot of fun. And it's fun seeing Rian Johnson play in this world in a lot of ways. I can't really give much away. There's so many twists and turns I don't really want to try to, because I frankly probably just do a worse job. But it's basically about that the patriarch in the family, played by Christopher Plummer, has killed himself, and a detective, private investigator Bennett Blanc, played by Daniel Craig, doing his southern accent again. A different one, I believe, than Logan Lucky, but pretty much in that vein if you remember or have even seen that movie. And he's kind of a Poirot type, or the kind of investigator who at the end goes on an obvious, this isn't a spoiler if you know the genre, an obvious explanation on everything that happened. The patriarch is believed to have killed himself, but then an envelope with money and a newspaper clipping was left at this private investigator's door. He comes to the house and starts interviewing them and tries to figure out what really happened and who possibly murdered the father, who is also a mystery writer. I do think this film is as meta, although there does seem to be a lot of layers to it. It's interesting seeing a film that's very like kind of audience friendly and fun, and kind of, I would say, kind of a lighter movie be as dense as this is. As I was even talking about it, I was thinking like, oh, I guess he did this and this is why he did that. Oh, I didn't think of it that way. I'm already gonna say probably a very rewatchable movie. Whenever this gets on Netflix or HBO plays it too much, or if FX has the movies or DVD on TV still around or whatever, this would be endlessly fun to rewatch over and over again. Or at least it feels that way. Maybe on the third watch I'll go like, this sucks now, but as of right now it feels that way. The interesting thing is I've been actually a fan of Rian Johnson since when I saw Brick. I just fell in love with that movie and fell in love with him as a filmmaker. I won't say I love every movie. The only one I didn't really like was Brothers Bloom, which again I need to rewatch. I didn't feel when this film started kind of the, oh boy, the movie started kind of feeling, even though I really wanted to see this movie. It was interesting seeing a major kind of auteur, because I believe Rian Johnson is very much selling himself as an auteur, kind of do a more kind of digestible, kind of fun film. And that was interesting. Sometimes, like, much like what Spielberg did with Raiders of the Lost Ark, which I guess is the greatest director does kind of a fun audience movie of all time, second to North by Northwest or Jurassic Park or something. I wouldn't put Raiders in this, but North by Northwest and Jurassic Park are those directors purposely being those directors. But since Rian Johnson, I think, is an auteur and has certain styles to him, and I've heard people try to talk about like what is his auteur voice, because all his films are very different. I don't think he's playing himself. I think he's constantly messing with the respective genres and talking about them and saying something with them and having fun with them. I'm not the biggest murder mystery person in the world, obviously being a fan of movies, you sit through quite a lot of them, and I've seen, I think, almost all or all of the Hitchcock films. So I know a good murder mystery, and I definitely enjoy it, but I don't think I know the genre well enough to say exactly what it's doing with certain things. Although I do feel like there wasn't anything that I felt like I didn't get. But maybe, if I know the genre better, I'll be able to understand things. This didn't feel like he was messing with the genre as much. He definitely likes the movie Rashomon a lot, which I could tell in both this and Last Jedi, which I think he has a lot of fun with. That's a good trope in itself. I'm surprised more people don't use it. Yeah, that's kind of the thing about this movie. It's a very smartly made, big, multiplex kind of film, but in a good way, and I found that to be a lot of fun. I would say don't tell people any of the twists of this. I'm not even really going to talk about it because I don't really want to spoil it, and part of me wants to think about it a little more, interestingly enough, because I didn't feel I was necessarily challenged or really swept up in it necessarily, but I was, well, actually I was, but I would say I was swept up in it, but in kind of more of a lighter way than I expect for these things, because it's not very suspenseful. It's like, it sort of would be like sort of if Hitchcock did a very well-told, well-structured, lighter murder mystery. Maybe it's more closer, I don't really know Agatha Christie as well as I should, so I know he's mentioned that as an influence as well. My very limited understanding of Agatha Christie, you can sort of see that in it. And I do think people are maybe freaking out about this a little too much because we don't get big Hollywood murder mysteries like this from auteur directors like ever anymore. I guess Murder on the Orient Express. I do think sometimes we overrate certain things just because it's unique, but when we think of the grand scheme of things, I don't know if this is outstanding or anything. It did feel kind of nice seeing this at the multiplex, this being a big movie with this kind of cast. Felt very refreshing. It sort of felt like, in a weird way, now that we're getting into Oscar season and there's all these big movies that are in quote unquote important or whatever, to see something that's this labored over be this fun and get into it, and it felt like, I don't know, kind of like a smart person's blockbuster, because of that. I really liked, all of the cast in this, from Toni Collette, who didn't maybe get as enough to do as I would have liked, but definitely had fun with the role, from Michael Shannon to Daniel Craig. Again, I think Daniel Craig loves being a character actor. It seems like he's very good at playing the kind of Bond, typical heterosexual male thing, and then he kind of messing in the character actor world. It's really interesting. He's really great. I think he's really fun. He's over the top. Ana de Armas, who I saw in this really bad Keanu Reeves movie a while ago originally, and she has now kind of becoming a bigger star. Also, she's in the next Bond movie. She was really great in this film. She really kind of holds her own in scenes with, screen legends, from Christopher Plummer to Daniel Craig to Chris Evans to, some major Hollywood actors. And I think she, pulls the focus onto her. She's really great, and I really hope this kind of makes her into a big Hollywood star, because I really like her a lot. I always thought she was very stunning, but she definitely has a screen presence that goes beyond that. She's an amazing actress, and without her, this cast is kind of levitating themselves through their kind of collective talents, but I think she definitely does a really good performance, and that's not an easy thing against all these other people. They're definitely they can definitely help you out in a certain regard with performance, but I think you really have to have the chops to go against some of these people, and also pull focus as much as she does. And you have to be a great storyteller, and she definitely is that. The whole thing with her vomiting is a little ridiculous, and Chris Evans, it was fun just seeing him be an asshole, kind of reminding you of more of his range at a perfect time, right when Captain America is over, showing you, he can do more than Captain America. It's funny, I was thinking 20 years ago, Robert Downey Jr. would have played that role, and now Chris Evans does. And the shame of it is I'm excited to see Chris Evans do more supporting stuff and more character stuff, and I'm saddened that Robert Downey Jr. doesn't do that anymore, but that's a whole separate thing. Don Johnson's really great. Jamie Lee Curtis, I'm glad we're seeing her in more stuff. She's great in an ensemble. A Fish Called Wanda especially kind of reminded me of that, how she really works in an ensemble really well. I kind of miss seeing her in a big ensemble like that. See Michael Shannon, Jesus, there's so many people in this. Christopher Plummer was really great. You're basically really down to like the bigger people have the bigger subplots, of course, and Ana de Armas, but everyone else who kind of gave their small portions to it I thought were really great. Noah Segan continues being in, I think he has his biggest role in a Rian Johnson film, but he continues to be in Rian Johnson's films in the background. And Lakeith Stanfield, who doesn't really get enough to do. I thought that was kind of a shame. Did I talk about everyone? Michael Shannon, it's just a lot of people. I just had a lot of fun with this. I don't really think it's like one of the best movies of the year. It didn't like blow me away necessarily, but I think in a lot of ways how it blew me away and how it impressed me as an audience member was more that it was able to be so much fun and not be a big suspenseful kind of thing, just be a lighter kind of like beach read of a murder mystery kind of movie, and that's kind of cool. In some ways it redefines what an auteur really does, because I think right now, when we're between like The Irishman and all these big important films, for him to come in and go, I just want you to have a fun time with a murder mystery with a nice movie star cast, feels very like in an interesting counterpoint, but it's a very enjoyable one. So I really like Knives Out. I don't think it's like the best Rian Johnson movie, but this probably is one of those where I think there's certain directors who go from like big dream project to big dream project, and like they're these huge epic kind of things or whatever. And it's interesting that this was a big dream project for Rian Johnson, because it feels like kind of just like a steady kind of film a director does to like have another hit. Or it would feel that way if it was the 50s or the 60s, but now it's like such a different thing. It's like he's using his Star Wars clout to like make this different kind of movie. Kind of shows you the real evolution of film, but I don't think the film itself is that, but it is interesting to do such a different kind of film, and one that's fun like this says a lot about him as a director. I'm kind of really curious where he's going to go next. This was a really good time. It's probably one of the better made, more fun studio films I've seen this year, and one that's incredibly solid, kind of almost solid in a almost too perfect way, where you're like, oh, that was very tight and we're done. The dialogue, I think, was quirky, but it worked set the characters, so it wasn't that there was like this meta-ness to it. It was very sort of natural in what it's doing, or as natural as a murder mystery can get. But I had a lot of fun with it. It's probably one of the more fun murder mysteries I've seen in quite a bit. It's not as the greatest Hitchcock, it's not anything like that. It's just a fun, sit back on the couch with the beer kind of like nice murder mystery. I think there's like a little more to it. It'll make you think. It's like a thinking man's one of those, but it's still one of those. It's still like, I had a good time, and like, I can't believe this person did it, and I can't believe this thing happened, and stuff like that. And you can put it down and talk to your friends and not be too obsessed with it, and then pick it right back up again. And I think Knives Out is just absolutely perfect at doing that. It kind of stabs to the heart of exactly what it needs to be. So if you've seen Knives Out and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to.